awkwardly stared at each other for the last 8 minutes?
It's everything about the concept is what we don't do anymore. We don't just have conversations with people where there's not an agenda.
It's like meeting a stranger in a parking lot or something, and then like, hey, you want to have coffee?
Yes. Oh, so how you doing? How's your day?
Exactly. Well, we are live here, Coffee with Humans, with my soon-to-be new friend, Christina. She's still actually a stranger. I only met her about 8 minutes ago. That's the essence of Coffee with Humans. Two people just bumping into each other randomly and then saying, hey, let's grab coffee. Before we got on the broadcast, I was thinking if we could have this discussion anywhere, where would that be? And I came up with we could be sitting in Iceland in a hot spring.
Lovely.
If you could have this discussion anywhere, where would it be for you?
Love this question. I'm stumped right now. I'm not really a beach person in terms of getting in with the aquatic life, but I do like to be near it and feel the breeze from it. Okay. And so anywhere by a beach.
What drew you to clicking the button to have coffee with me?
Was searching and I found this one and it grabbed me, it pulled me in, and it just seemed, your podcast and Coffee with Humans seemed very welcoming, that you were really eager and enjoyed just making meaningful connections.
Coffee with Humans is like Sunday brunch.
I love Sunday brunch.
Okay, good. Because, well, you're in the right place. Only There's no food. We are live once again with Coffee with Humans, live streamed around the world, a place where strangers become friends. And today, my new friend is Lucas Caneda. Welcome to Coffee with Humans.
Hey, Jason. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
So I got to know, why did you choose to click the button to have coffee with me?
Well, I find your show, and I think it's a very friendly situation to actually get to know each other and to speak to the audience and dive into what each of us does. And I find that very interesting.
Awesome. Well, I'm super happy to have you here. I also am going to go out on a limb here and suggest that we are not anywhere near each other on the globe. So I'll go first. I'm outside Chicago in the U.S. Where are you at?
I'm currently in Sarlat in France, so that's southwest of France. So it's pretty far away.
That's true. It is pretty far away, but this is through the miracle of modern technology. You can find a podcast, a video cast, and then click a button, and then suddenly, we're on this screen. And for our viewers and listeners who are just joining us, one of the things about Coffee with Humans is Lucas and I don't know each other at all. We met almost, I would say, a little over 10 minutes ago. Did some technical checks, named our chat, and now it's like we're just sitting down to get to know one another, and the whole world's invited to that. And I find that super fascinating, and I'm glad that Lucas, you're here with me today. So,
sure. Thank you. Pleasure's all mine.
Well, this is good. I did find out one fact from you that I gathered when we were talking before the broadcast, that you said that you're a professional rugby player.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, it's always been my dream to become a professional rugby player. I'm from Argentina, but I'm currently living in France. When I was back home, there were no professional teams back there. So I knew in my mind that if I wanted to fulfill my dream, I had to go somewhere else. That destiny became France when I had the chance, like 5 or 6 years ago. Since I mean, I've always worked hard to get there, so I didn't hesitate too much. Even though, I mean, it's hard to move from one side of the globe to the other, but I mean, I really enjoy what I'm doing, and really appreciate the opportunity to fulfill my dream. It's what I wanted to do, and when it finally comes true, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I know. So I've done a bit of watching of rugby, and I know nothing about. I know nothing about the rules really, because it almost seems like there are no rules, which can't possibly be true. but it does.
I think it's quite the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's so many, so hard
really
to actually. Yeah. Well,
so
imagine yourself like football,
Okay.
but without the protection,
Right.
and you need to score, but instead of passing forward, you need to pass the ball behind.
Okay. All right.
That's pretty quick connection between those.
Okay, so that's the basics of it. Score, pass the ball behind you, and like hit people, but without protection, it's got to be rough.
Yeah. I'm telling you, your body can feel it the day after.
I bet. Yeah. So is it worth it? Does it take a toll on your body?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's not just the sport that I love, but it's also the values that they teach you and the mentality that I really, really enjoy. I mean, even since I was a kid, people kept talking about rugby being like big family, no matter where you are, and that became a reality to me. In every single experience I had. I mean, whenever you meet someone that's into the rugby world, you instantly connect. You speak the same language. It's like you're friends already, right? Only because you both follow the same sport. So I like to call that the rugby family
Okay.
globally, and it helps a lot. Even when I came to France, different language, different country, different, I mean, habits, and thanks to rugby, I think I've managed to adapt myself a lot quicker into this new situation. And it's like you always have a group of friends backing you up wherever you are.
Yeah. What's the training process look like to get into playing professional rugby and then also stay in it? Because I would think you have a high level of physical and mental maintenance probably to be able to continue to compete at that level.
Yeah, to keep going, basically. I mean, there's different kind of people. There's some people that, I mean, they have it a bit easier, I would say, because they are either very skillful or physically at a whole new different level. I don't consider myself one of those, but I do think that there's lots of hard work, uh, and I find it very satisfying that you can actually get there if you have your mind completely focused on doing it and you do what it takes. I mean, and I think that's a very good connection to everything else, like business, for instance. And you do need to be able to do what it takes to succeed. And I won't say it's always that like that, but if you do everything you have to get there, you will probably have a lot better chance of doing it.
Yeah.
Than if you won't.
It,
Right?
re- it reminds me of a quote, and I don't remember who first coined this phrase, but it goes something like, "The difference between those who do and those who don't are those who do and those who don't." And it's so true because the world is littered with stories of people who have had dreams, even against all odds they pushed forward to achieve those dreams, and so we look at them as inspiration, and yet also think, well, it's probably not me, but there's no reason it can't be, other than I think many times we just don't want to put in the amount of effort or work to be able to achieve that dream. We actually don't want it as much as we think we do. We want the idea of it much more than we want the reality of it. And then because we certainly don't want to do the work that it takes to go get that.
Yeah. Well, if you're not willing to do the work, there's probably because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. I usually tend to say that you need to be passionate about what you are doing. So that makes everything a lot easier. Because for me, when I went training or when I had to stop eating junk food or stop drinking, I mean, I haven't had a drink for like 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And that was because I knew that I needed to do something extra to get there. That was just a decision. Okay, I need to get there. What am I gonna do to get there? Okay, let's try this. Let's try that. And then, I mean, it's not that I don't like to, or that I don't. When my hanging out with my friends, I would die to drink beer with them. But I just don't. I mean, yeah, it's a hard call, but it's with an objective in mind. I mean, if you really have that in mind, whatever it is, I don't see why not doing it till the end. When you speak about quotes, there's also another one that says something like, "Winners are losers that tried one more time."
That's totally true. I love it. It is so true. And that goes to the title of this talk, I think. Because when I asked you before the broadcast, what do you want to name this talk? You brought up this idea of being a team leader on and off the field. And I like the pairing of that thought with what you talked about, doing one more thing. Like, okay, if I'm going to achieve greatly, I have to do something greatly. It can't just be doing something good. It's got to do something greatly. And then pairing that also with this idea of consistency, that it's not that you're, clearly you wouldn't be having a drink in the middle of a match and, leading a team and playing, but that has to carry over into off the field, because there's got to be a consistency between the two people. You on the field, you off the field, to be able to perform at a high level over a long period of time on the field.
Yeah. And it's not just to perform, I think, but it's also because if you are preaching something, you need to be able to stand by that yourself, right? I mean, I can't be telling people to, you need to make the effort, you need to be taking care of yourself, and then not doing it myself. I would be ridiculous. I mean, it's not who I am, at least. And if I'm telling you this is what you should do, or if I'm suggesting that this is what we should try, is probably because I've tried that before myself, because I know it might work, or they actually live by that, and not just it's not just blah blah blah. I mean, you need to be able to justify, or at least, if you're a firm believer that that's going to work, at least stand by it and carry it on.
Yeah.
One of the things, because one of the ways I'd like to lead is through example, not just telling people what to do, but actually doing it myself and showing them that it can be done, that the effect that it can bring.
Yeah. Well, that's the principle of having children, right? Is the children do what they see you do, not what they say you do. And people, adults are really no different. We just don't, we just try and, think about it differently in our heads, but really we're like, well, this is what the rule says this, but everybody's doing this thing. And the vast majority of people will just go along with whatever what everybody else is doing, instead of holding themselves to that high standard, which, if you're going to be the team leader, then you have to hold yourself to a high standard, because there are going to be times when, if that's really the standard and really useful, you're going to call on everybody to move to that standard. And if you're not doing it yourself, it's certainly impossible, I think, to ask people to achieve at that level. And I know what that's like. It's incongruous is the,
Exactly.
I think is the word I'm looking for in that. So
yeah,
good, excellent point. So how do you translate this you've got this team leader on and off the field, but then you've got something going on in business, and I only know that because you said, if we talk about a company, and what are you doing in the world of business if you're in the professional rugby thing? How's this working for you in business?
It works great, to be honest. When I first came to France, I was only doing rugby. Eventually, a couple years back, I thought it was not enough, so I also studied while I was playing. And 2 years ago, I still thought it was not what I wanted to do, and at least not just that. So I've also looked for having a job, working while I was playing professionally.
Yeah.
And that's how I became the team leader at Unicorn Incubator. And I love it. I mean, I believe there's so many connections between sports and business that it's only adding value to both sides of the coin.
Okay. Like what?
Like, I mean, leading, motivation, those are things that you learn in sports and in business, and that they're crucial for success. What about team spirit? Rugby is all about that. And I think most of team sports are what they say, that the chain always gets cut by their weakest, how you call it, but the weakest
The weakest link.
link.
Yeah.
So it's all about the team and how the team performs. And a team's game, 99% of the time, it's either the team winning or nobody. I mean, you hardly ever see one guy winning a game on its own. And I do think that when we bring that to business, it's very important, because you can't just do everything by yourself in any business. You need to be. One of the things we always speak about is, tell me who is going to solve this problem, not how. And why is because I don't want to try to learn how to solve this problem if there's already someone that can help me out and who's a real expert and can do this way better than I do.
Yeah.
I have my things where I can perform, but it's certainly not everywhere. And then why should I be wasting a lot of time into producing something mediocre when there's someone next to me on my same team that can perform perfectly on this subject at half the time? I need to be able to identify each participant or each team player's weaknesses, but also their strengths,
Mm-hmm.
to leverage on them and to just, I don't like the word use, but at the end of the day, yeah, using their best attributes into a team that's actually succeeding.
Yeah. In rugby, since again I'm new to the and we're not even talking about like really what goes on in rugby, but you compared it to football, and I know in football people have different specializations, right? In rugby, are most people utility players, or do people have specializations?
Specialization.
Really? Okay.
And that's one of the things I love about rugby, is that anyone can play the sport. You're short, you're tall, you're big, you're small, you're fat, you're quick, you're slow. You have a spot.
Okay.
I mean, there's a job for everyone. Of course, you need to put the efforts into it and get better at what you do. Makes sense.
Sure.
But I mean, no matter how you physically are, you can always get there. And that's one of the things that I enjoy a lot. And actually, one of the things that I try to prove wrong to everyone, because they kept telling me that I was too small to play professionally. 'Cause I'm not too tall, I'm not too big. Well, I'm sorry to prove you wrong, but I'm gonna do everything whatever it takes to get there. And luckily, I mean, I finally did. But yeah.
So a visual that came to my mind when you were speaking about teams, and is the idea of rugby games being pretty short and plays being pretty short. You can route out in a game the difficult spots. The people who aren't prepared for that game. You can figure out the people who aren't communicating well. You can see the challenges in the team in a short period of time because the game is pretty compressed. Whereas sometimes in business, you might be working on something for months, only to find out that this thing isn't coming together. And you drill down, you figure out, oh my gosh, we've got a communication problem or a systems problem or something like that. And so these principles of teamwork, of communication, of ownership, of specialization, and being able to pass, quote unquote, pass the ball or communicate well. Sometimes it's harder to find out what's going on in the complexity and length of time, I think, in business rather than being able to see it within a play or a game in rugby, even though the principles are the same. What's your understanding of that, having been in both business and in rugby?
Well, one of the things that happens on sports is that the time you have to react or to act, it becomes shorter and shorter every single time. What happened? I mean, when you go up in the levels in sports, you have less time to make a decision, right? And I think that actually helps when you go into the business world because you are accustomed to identifying what's in front of you much faster. Because you are obliged because of what you've experienced at rugby in this case, but in sports in general. And I think that's a very good value that you bring into business because you're able to identify a lot quicker what's going on. And instead of just focusing on problems, actually finding solutions. Because at the end of the day, that's what we need. We need people that solve problems, not just create a new one. That's why we are in business. That's our objective. It's actually to fix something that's not working and to keep increasing, keep going further, keep getting into the next level. I think that connection is pretty interesting, and how you can actually take things from sports into business and try to use them.
Yeah.
When you speak about communication, I mean, at least in rugby, it's crucial for success. I mean, when someone's not communicating properly, I mean, there's always a gap, always a hole. That happens in business too. One of the things we always say is that be 100% honest. I don't care if you tell me to my face that I suck. I mean, but do so, please, because I need that feedback to adjust, to fix the problem. Because if I don't have that information, it's impossible to do it. As long as it's constructive, I don't feel offended.
Right. Yeah, and I agree with you on this idea that the communication simply has to happen faster because you have a compressed time frame. You're passing the ball, moving within a matter of seconds from one place to the next, and you want to be successful in that. And so you program your mind, I believe, to communicate faster, to make quick decisions, instead of having the and I don't know if it's a luxury, but I'm going to say luxury. This is luxury of being able to give consideration. But Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, that had a very interesting quote something about making decisions, and it went something like this: that once you have, and I don't know if it was 70% or 80% of the information. Once you have something like 80% of the information to make a decision, just make the decision, because it's going to take you so long to figure out the rest of the 20%. You're going to lose all the benefit of making that decision quickly. You can always, and this is a principle in life and in business. Most decisions you make are not irrevocable. You could take the decision back at some point in time if you decided not to. Like, I mean, let's say your dream was, to go play professional rugby, and you traveled across the world to go do it. Let's say you got there and you're like, oh, well, that was better on TV. I'm not doing this anymore. It was, you could just the next day say, I'm out. And many people, I think people who live with more regret in their lives, I'll paint a big brush on that one, but people who live with more regret in their lives for not doing the things they wanted to do would look at that and go, well, it's going to take so much effort to travel across the ocean. I'm going to put so much work into this. And what if I don't like it? The answer to what if you don't like it is just don't do it. And I think that people get sometimes stuck in making a decision, and I'll use myself just as, I'll throw myself in the ring. Like, sometimes I've overthought decisions, just sitting there around and around and around and around, believing I'm going to come to a better conclusion, when in fact any decision would have been better than delaying, for weeks or months or years on end. Just make a decision. You can most of the time take the decision back, but you will have learned something in the process rather than just continuing to look at your own decision.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, because if you don't act, if you don't do, you'll never learn. That learning process, it's so important to not make the same mistake again in the near future. So you need to actually do. They speak about that in comfort zones. And the only way to get outside of your comfort zone is actually setting yourself outside of that box, right? And if you don't do it, you'll always stay at that place where you feel comfortable and that you don't learn anymore, that you're... but I don't think, at least in my opinion, because I'm very competitive, that would never work for me, because I think that comes from sports too, because I hate losing. Even if we play a simple card game between you and me, and if I lose, I'm gonna be pissed off. Don't matter. It's nothing against you, but I just hate losing, and I think that takes you further. Because
I think so too. I would guess, just having watched a lot of rugby, I would guess that the mentality of really wanting to win is important, because that the energy required to stay in the game and to fight for the win that hard can't just be it can't be manufactured, just with everything else. It's got to come from someplace in your gut to say, we are going to destroy, and win.
Yeah. And just don't let yourself lose, even if you do lose, because nobody wins every single time. But you do as much as you can to win. If you lose, okay, at least you did as much as you could.
Yeah, which is, that's you brought up an interesting phrase there. Don't let yourself lose. And I wonder if there, in a team sport like rugby, where there's a score on the wall, it's pretty clear who, won or lost the game. However, in business and in life, it's not so clear, because nobody, like, how do you measure the win? And I think that there's a principle in this idea of, if you followed all of the principles, and then at the end of the day it still didn't work out, you still didn't get that notch on the wall, you still didn't lose, because you did what you could, and you continued to fight another day, and that's sometimes worth everything. particularly in the land of startups. I mean, you're working with an incubator.
And the
The
good
thing
thing is,
in incubators, like, you have to twist sometimes even the whole business model of a company, because you get into it, you're like, this isn't working at all. That's not, you're still winning. You're not losing, because
true.
the market that you thought was going to work didn't work, and you move it.
Yeah. Even when you close up a startup, I mean, you're not losing. You just you need to see full glass, not just the empty part of the glass, right? I mean, you could be losing much more because you're being stubborn and you want to keep going. But one of the things that you said, for me, it's very interesting because the good thing about life, about business, is that we can all win at the same time. We don't need to be defeating each other to win. And that's something that, in my opinion, is very powerful, because winning, it's whatever you feel, whatever you set up as your own objectives. And it doesn't need to be being better than someone else. It needs to be fulfilling for yourself, for your family, for your surroundings. And same as a business. I mean, businesses have different objectives, and we can all win at the same time, at the same place, as long as we fulfill those objectives, fulfill our dreams. That's something, I mean, very powerful.
Yeah, I think that the principle of that as long as if we follow the principles of what makes us a team, and we did what we could in that moment, then we did, quote unquote, win. Because, like you say, there are no winners and losers. And if we get into that mindset, it's a dangerous place to be, I think, where we get into this idea of there's a winners and losers mindset in life or in business, because we have a tendency, like, I'll go back. I have this vision in my head of when my family and I, we had season tickets to a basketball team when I was growing up, and my dad would take us down there, and I would get so I think it was anger. I don't even know what it was, but I would get angry or something and just like yell at the top of my lungs, and yell at the refs and yell at the teams. And then as we left the basketball game, we get in the car, right? And it seemed like at that point in time, now we're race car drivers, because we're so amped up, and now we're going to take out people on the road too on the way home, and there's an energy in that which I can still feel it in me sometimes, where it's just like, I want to take them out, and there's no reason for it. There's zero reason to do that on the road. There's not necessarily a reason to do it in business. There's certainly no reason to do it in life, and yet the energy to the where that comes from, when directed, helps you achieve great things, because it'll help you, back to one of the first things you're talking about, it helps you go one step further than you would have, because that energy came in from inside you. And whereas it used to be directed at another team, you simply directed at the issue. And now all of a sudden you can push past, you can accomplish, you can grow in ways that other people can't, because they refuse to muster that energy.
And that energy is so powerful. I mean, that energy is the one that is driving us. I mean, you need to have that energy in whatever you do, that passion, call it whatever you want, but that's what drives you. That's what drives teams, that's what drives businesses take the next step.
Yeah. So in your business life, moving to the business life stuff, you're part of an incubator, and you and I had asked you, if at any point in time you want to put a link on the screen for people to follow up with you. You said challengerx.io, which because for our viewers and listeners joining us, Lucas and I just met a half hour ago. and we're just learning about each other, and you're just happen to be invited to the conversation, which is the cool thing about Coffee with Humans. It's people just meeting and having a coffee chat. But what is ChallengerX.io about?
Well, it's one of our startups. We funded it 2 weeks ago. We are actually trying to beat all records in terms of going public.
Okay.
So we are going to be listed in the Aquis Exchange in London and also in Germany. And the idea is to be listed by the 15th of July, approximately. That means 8 weeks since the funding to the listing, which is pretty quick, I would say, to say the least. And the idea of the company is to provide every club, no matter what sport they are doing, no matter which country they are in, a service that we're bringing to them to become a very strong club. So we are taking, we'd like to say that we are taking Davids into Goliaths, because we would like to take the small teams around to become the big ones. And we've actually done it ourselves already, like our business model. We took Sarla Rugby, this is our local rugby club, which you can see right behind me. We took it when roughly a year ago, 14 months ago, and there was, I would say, nothing or almost nothing that was going on. So we took the branding, we took the image, we actually created a logo that's much more interesting, that people can actually connect to the brand, to the we're not just creating a club, but we are actually creating a brand that people can actually connect and feel identified with. And then we started going up the route into an exponential curve, into merchandise, for instance. So we had almost no products. Now we are in a position to that we have currently more than 20 different products that you can buy from at least 20 different places, physical places around town that are selling our own products. We built a website that looks like any other professional club, when in fact we are just a small club in 5th division in France. But we built it out so that you can see no difference between a professional club and an amateur club. And that's what we are bringing into Challenger X.
Okay.
Also, we've identified problems with the sponsoring. So people were not actually offering anything in return. They were just asking for money from their sponsors. At the end of the day, I feel that's more like a donation instead of an actual sponsoring. So what we are doing is, for instance, we've signed up with 62 TV broadcast and streaming stations all around the world that are going to be publishing our content. They are going to be showing our games live, and we are bringing that to the world through Sala Rugby. And that's something we can offer to our sponsors. I mean, be in front of this audience in this sector, in this niche, and that's something you can sell. I mean, there's lots of things, but what I like to call the cherry on the top is tokenization. So we are in a position today to mint a token for any club that would like to in 10 to 15 minutes. So we already minted Sarla as a token for our club. And we have not promoted yet, but soon to be. It's a social token. That means it's not. It differs from a security token. The good thing about it is that there's actual utility in the token itself. So I don't know, but you can, if you're a big fan of your favorite player and you want to have a meeting with him, through the tokens, we can set up a system to have a call a half an hour call with him, for instance. Or if you'd like to buy a jersey with a token, you can do it. If you want to support your team on social media, you can share a post and earn a token. In fact, speaking about social media, 9 months ago we had roughly 1,500 followers, and today we are over 130K.
Wow.
So those are the things that we are also bringing into Challenger X, that we are showing other clubs that it can be done, and helping them achieve that goal through the company. And in fact, without reaching out to clubs, the clubs are actually coming to us, asking us, how did you guys achieve what you did? How can we be a part of? That's very interesting because, listen, here is Challenger X to help you out, to support you all the way. And one of the things I like the most is that we are not charging incredible fees for the service. We're in a commission basis. So whatever added value that we bring to the table, we get a commission.
Okay.
And that's re-engaging for the clubs because they got pretty much nothing to lose. And in my opinion, it also engages ourselves into performing in what we are doing and actually bringing added value to that club and helping them succeed. Because if they do, we do too. And that comes again to what I said before: we can all win in the same world, right? I mean, in business world, we can all win at the same time. We don't need to beat each other to be winning.
Yeah. So you talked about tokens. So I'm a techie. And so
really?
when you say tokens, I know a little bit about a handful of different types of tokens. For our viewers and listeners who don't know what you're talking about, break down this idea of a token and why that has utility and how people interact with tokens in the scheme of Challenger X.
Well, if you're an expert, you can help me out. But in a nutshell, the utility is ourselves we are creating that utility. A token by itself, it's got value, maybe, yes, but what brings the value to a token, it's actually what you can do with it.
Sure. So let's say your club, you said you minted a token for yourself.
Yep.
How do I, as an individual, get value out of that token? Do I buy it?
There's two different ways. You can always buy it through fiat currency or Ethereum, because the token is linked to Ethereum.
Okay.
And also the other part, which is what I call the utility, is that you can actually earn tokens by certain actions that you do to support your club.
Okay. So, for instance, it's a digital currency.
Yes.
And so if I were to buy your token, I'm basically investing in that team. Similarly to how I might show up to your, to a game or something like that, where the game is a transient thing where I pay my money and then it goes away. If I buy your token, I'm buying the value of that team, or contributing to the value of that team. I believe in your team and I give my money to say so, or I take actions to say so, such as, sharing posts or taking some sort of action, which demonstrates then that I value that team. And then the price of that token should go up based on supply and demand for that team's token, right? And then this idea, I think when you said you can earn certain things, is it the number of the number of tokens you have, or the value of the tokens which might earn something? Like I might get free swag or something like that if I've invested enough or done enough.
Yes. I'd like to make a quick note there, because there's a difference between the security tokens and the utility and the social tokens. So
sure.
This token is a social token. You are not owning a piece of the team. just to tell our audience, I mean, the difference between that. But what you said, it's very interesting because the beauty about tokens is that we can literally do whatever we want. So, for instance, your dream is to make the kickoff of the first game. Okay, I can set up what is called a contract on the blockchain that allows us to do a raffle for the people that own at least a certain quantity of tokens, a raffle between those people to earn the possibility to be elected to make the kickoff of the first game. Or I would love to live the experience of a changing room before a game. Sorry. So imagine you would like to be at our changing room before a game, listen to our motivational speech. Okay, you can be a part of if you have X amount of tokens in your wallet.
Yeah, it's a proxy for the for owning the team, but it's basically a measurement or supply and demand, or people are using it in terms of I should say the social construct of tokens is that it's a supply and demand based system for interest. It's basically a measurement of interest, either via money or certain actions, because people give away tokens as well for taking actions, and that digital currency then rises or falls based on the number of people and the quantity of tokens minted and the actions taken. And so a popular team, to make the kickoff of a super popular team, because there's a lot of people who want those tokens, it might be more expensive to get those tokens. Whereas a team that's just starting off and just gaining some traction, the price of those tokens might be very low. And so if you believe, let's say you really believe in the long-term future of that team, you can buy that token using your money. Now that money's held in that digital currency, or the value is translated into that digital currency. Ideally, the price of that team goes up. That the team's token rather goes up, because more people have become interested in it. More people are taking action, rather than the team giving out shares of the company, which just is not necessarily reasonable. And it's global. It's globally accessible as well. So
true.
I think it's actually the future. It's the future. This idea of social monetization. Being able to have buy tokens or invest in what you believe the long-term value of an individual or a group is. There's a huge future in that, which is just starting to be unlocked. And it is the next big wave that most people don't see coming. And I think one of the coolest things that I'm seeing in here is you take a sport played on a field with a bunch of guys who don't mind getting beat up for a little bit, and to win a game. And then you translated that into how do we support these smaller teams, and then moved it all the way over into how do we use the newest technology to democratize the ability for people to support the smallest teams, so that people can go out and beat each other up on the field for a bit. You've crossed a lot of boundaries there to be able to do that. And
we know. Yeah.
So tell me about the team that makes this up, because it's not just rugby players. It can't be. Who's on the team, and how did the tech world get joined up with the sports world?
Well, we are a team here that's consisted of 55 to 60 people from 27 different nationalities. And we do work also with people from abroad, like people that help us out that do specific parts. We have good partners. We've been into the digital marketing business for our funder has been that business for 28 years already. So I mean that's how this came to mind too. And yes, we do have the right partners. We have an internal team inside the house of 60 people. We have at least 10 more people coming up pretty soon. There's more rugby players that you think of because we love the spirit. We love what they bring to the business side, as we discussed before. We think the added value it's huge, and also because if you make them part of the project, like they are, both on and off the field, that makes the whole difference because they are actually being a part of what they are building together on and off the pitch. So we do have very high objectives sports wise, but also off the pitch, we do have this exciting business that we're funding right now, which we believe has a lot to bring. And the main reason why we are confident about it is because it actually brings solutions to almost every club's problems.
Yeah.
And that's how we like to think, bringing solutions.
For sure.
Here to create a new problem.
I think it's great. You know, my kids swam for a long time, and you know, there's just so many ways the swimming team can go get money. One is to run concessions, and you know, so you get concession sales of people buying all sorts of stuff, and I think if you add up the amount of volunteer hours and the money obtained from concessions, you should have just asked people to bring a 20 to the game. You know, or to the team, and we would have been further ahead with a whole lot less work. But there is that idea of it. But people like to volunteer. People want to give. People want to invest. And if you can give them a direction to invest in the thing that they love, even though they're not participating on the field, right, or in the pool or on the court, if you give them a method to invest, that your community, either locally or even globally, will take that opportunity to invest. And I think there's something magical afoot. It's a new thing, 100%. This idea of being able to invest in social tokens.
And coming back to that, imagine you being in a position where you can actually give a token to the volunteers.
Right. Huge.
That's amazing. Huge. I mean, actually a good way to thank them for all their work, for all what they've done, because I mean most of the clubs wouldn't be alive without the volunteers. We all know that, and we usually don't do enough for them. This is one possibility, and I think it will take us and every club to a whole different level.
I mean, the typical method of thanking a volunteer by giving them a free sandwich or something, or a free beer, that's neat. But to be able to own a part in that social token, and then say, hey, here's an investment in our future success. And if you want to turn around and sell it tomorrow, you can take your earnings and go. But if you want to hold this thing and be part of the investment in this team, just like the rest of us are, own it for the next 20 years if you want to, and then you can cash out all your winnings because you were there when we were at this place. I think it's fantastic, and I'm super excited to see where you go with that. Well, we're butting up again at the end of our time. We have traveled. We've traveled in a lot of different directions, going from rugby all the way into social tokens and the tech world. Fascinating conversation.
That's the beauty about Coffee with Humans, right?
It is. It really is. I think it's great. Now for our viewers and listeners, I met Lucas now 1 hour ago. And before we went live, we did a couple tech checks and we named our chat. And you have been a part globally of getting to know Lucas just as I have, and him getting to know me. And that's Coffee with Humans. It is live, candid talk show conversations between strangers who become friends, all in an effort to make the world a better place. And I think that we did that here today. Lucas, as we close out, are there any last words, any kind of button you want to put at the end of this as we close out?
Not really. I would just say it's a bit cliche, but maybe follow your dreams. I mean, I know it sounds, obvious, but don't be afraid of pushing forward to get there, because it's about the adventure. I think that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing. It's the adventure, it's the challenge, it's the journey, and I think that's something I would hate myself if I would lose the opportunity to be a part of this. And that's what I try to tell people that are joining us. Probably none of us has lived through something as big as this before. So be a part of it.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining me on Coffee with Humans. And to our viewers and listeners, catch us next time. Subscribe on YouTube and share it around. We stream, or I stream, every couple of days right now. So it's hard to miss us if you're looking. So thanks for joining me, Lucas.
Thanks, Jason. It was a pleasure.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.